can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
Hey, how we doing out there tonight? All across this great land of ours and around the world, it is that time. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate coming to you live right now, coast to coast, nationally syndicated, globally syndicated, nationally acclaimed. The Conservative Syndicate, where we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We do that through education, information, and engagement with you, our listening audience. And we're glad to have you with us on this Super Tuesday, March 1st, first day of March, Super Tuesday. I believe it's 15 states at stake here. The largest chunk or hunk of delegates, and it's going to be an interesting evening. We still have about an hour before the polls close. So we're not real sure at this point who's leading or who's winning or who's not winning, but that hasn't kept all the speculation and all the spin and all the attacks and everything. I mean, it is a credit to the establishments out there, both left and right, and how quick they can. Well, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to define it. How quick they can unload a barrage of negativity in just 24 hours. Now, I'm sure that most of this stuff that we see, and we see it in campaign after campaign, in election year after election year, whether it's a national, whether it's a state election, whether it's a local election. I've seen it at all levels. This ability to manufacture or produce evidence or documentation or insinuation or implications that just created for the purpose of trying to plant some level or seed of doubt in supporters of a particular candidate or not. Now, I'm going to preface and probably do it throughout the show that I am not a Donald Trump supporter. I do not believe Donald Trump is the best person to lead this country back to the road of the republic or back to lead the restoration movement of the republic. I believe that he is very much he's very much like Obama in a lot of ways. I believe that he is saying what he thinks he needs to say to win. I don't think he's going to do all the things that he says he's going to do should he win. I don't think he will have the capability of doing all the things that he says he's going to do if he becomes president, simply because I don't think he's going to have a Congress that's going to be willing to cooperate with him. That's my main thing about him. My other beef about Donald Trump in particular is the lack of substance whenever he's asked a question about anything. It's all about, it's going to be great, we're going to do it, we're going to fix it, yeah, it's going to be great, or I'm going to make a deal, yeah, we're going to make so many deals, your heads will spin. Very absent of any substance. Now, I know his supporters tell me and say to the general public, if you want to know what Donald Trump thinks, well, go to his website. But that's not the purpose. See, if a candidate can explain to you in his own or her own words what it is they believe in and what they represent, sending me to their website to read something that was probably typed up by their campaign manager or staff as to how they stand on things, what it tells me is they might believe this stuff. They might believe it. They might, Donald Trump might be the most hardcore conservative, although it would have to be a Damascus Road experience, but he cannot or will not take the time to answer a question in a substantive manner. One of the things I'm going to talk about here was an interview that he did on Hannity just the other night. I think it might have been last night or the night before last. I'm not sure. But I watched about half of it, and I pulled up the transcripts of it today. And I am appalled that Sean Hannity was so softball with Donald Trump, just so softball. In fact, he was pretty much softball with all the candidates. What the Fox News has been doing, and something that I believe should be the model for future elections, especially when you're dealing with a general election, is they're bringing these candidates on a one-on-one, and they're putting them in front of a group of people, a block of people, and they're asking the questions, and they're letting the candidates respond to the people. In the case of Megyn Kelly, I talked about this earlier. She brought him in front of an actual group and let the group ask the questions. And we got much more information, not in substance, but in clarity. And it wasn't really any. See, here's the thing. I'm going to kind of talk in circles today because we're getting to this point where we really have to kind of verbalize our way through the process in order to come to some reasonable understanding and conclusion as to what's going on. So Megyn Kelly has this group of voters, and they're asking the candidates questions. I watched the interview with Ted Cruz and Ben Carson, and, well, actually all of them. I think I watched all of them with Marco Rubio. I don't think I watched the interview with Marco Rubio. But here's my point, is that everything that they said in these groups is pretty much everything we've heard on the debate stage. The difference was all the rancor and all the back and forth and the insults and the name-calling was gone. And so it had a little bit more substance to it, to be able to hear them respond. But in every case, with the exception of Donald Trump, which did not appear on Megyn Kelly's forum, but he did appear on Sean Hannity, it's absence any substance. And I'm going to go through the interview with you tonight. I pulled up the transcript, and we're going to talk about a little bit about that tonight as we're waiting for the polls to close within the next hour. And I don't know if that'll be the case all across the country. The last primary, I believe, the South Carolina primary, or was it the New Hampshire primary? I think it was the New Hampshire caucus. They had problems with the voters getting in. And so the polls stayed open beyond. But at least we know within the hour, the major networks out there will start spinning and trying to predict who's going to, in their race to be the first one to call it for whoever. They'll be out there and start spilling some statistics and numbers for us. But until then, we're going to talk about some other stuff here revolving around this, because what I want to do before the night is over is I want to be able to lay out to you what I think is going to happen. And I've been predicting this off and on here for the past 5 or 6 months. And what's happening now is I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming out of the mainstream press, the mainstream media, that really kind of supports everything we've been saying here in the conservative syndicate for quite a while now, in terms of how this primary is going to finish up, who's going to be the top dog when it's all said and done, and how is the Republican candidate going to face up against whoever the Democrat candidate is. That's not a real hard take on that, and we're going to try to cover all that tonight, and then bring to you whatever updates we have during the course of the show in terms of results and what we're seeing out there. So that's kind of our plan tonight. Joe Hakos, my co-host, is still out, will be out. Hopefully he'll be back before this week's over. He is feeling much better. Thank you for your prayers, those of you who have been praying for him. He just had a real bad infection, and it just really affected him really bad. Put him in the bed for a long. He's just now really getting around and moving. And so I'm going to try to do my best to bring all this to a point before the night is over as to who is going to win this thing and how they're going to win it and what it's all going to mean in terms of where we're going to end up come November. So that's the plan. That's where we hope to go tonight. So we'll see how that works out. But in the meantime, we're going to be covering several other things that have to do with the election. A lot of it I'm going to start out when we get back from our break. I'm going to go back into this discussion about these last-minute Hail Marys being thrown out there by the media and, of course, the GOP establishment in their desire or their almost rabid fervor to take down Donald Trump. And again, I'll just leave you with this remark. I'm not a Donald Trump supporter. I do not think he's the right guy. I think he's feeding us a lot of BS. I think a lot of what he says and does is about Donald Trump, much more than it is about the country. Donald Trump is, by his own admission, a great deal maker. And if that's what you need to know, because that is what Barack Obama claimed to be. Barack Obama was going to be a unifier and a claim deal maker, and we see how that all worked out. So anyway, stay with us here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be back in just a moment. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back on this Super Tuesday. I am John Matthews, your host, man, prophet of the airways, on a mission from God, and that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. And that's what we do here at the Conservative Syndicate. Now, let's get into what's going on here. I mentioned at the very beginning of the show. You know what? In fact, before I do that, I want to say something here. I want to discuss something I saw the other day. And it'll help me gear up. Sometimes I need to do that. It'll help me gear up for what I want to say in terms of everything that's going on right now in this Super Tuesday. And it's kind of off the wall. It's not really pertaining to the election itself, the primary season, or anything else. But it does demonstrate or illustrate very much how the narrative in this country is being dictated and how it's being programmed into the electorate and even those that don't vote. A lot of people that don't vote don't think it's worth voting, don't think their vote counts or whatever. Well, you're just going to go along with whatever happens anyways, and you just have to deal with it. But those of us who actually try to make intelligent, reasonable decisions, actually take the time to vet the people that are running and look at what they represent, look at their history and everything else, we try our best to make a reasonable assessment and base our decisions on that. Now, I was at the gym the other day. It was the day before yesterday. I was actually going to talk about this on Monday, and it just keeps coming back. It keeps popping up in my head. So that I've learned that when I keep getting something back in my head, it's something I need to say. And as I was watching, I was sitting resting in between lifting. I started lifting again instead of, I used to go to the gym just to do the bike and everything, but I've started lifting weights again and because I enjoy that much more. And I'm watching this commercial, and I actually posted on my Facebook. If you go to my Facebook, facebook.com/The Conservative Syndicate, you'll find it there. And what it is a commercial of Special Olympics. And what you have are these 5 or 6 children who are going to be doing a dash, like a 50-yard dash, 100-yard dash, something like that. And they're all lined up just like, track people, normal track runners. And they're ready to go, and they're down in their position to start, and the gun goes off, and they start running. And you see the kids just chugging along, doing their best to win and compete. And the parents, you see shots on the camera, the parents, cheering their kids on and everything else. Well, this one kid, I guess he's the slowest one. He's far behind everybody else. And he falls down. He trips and falls down. And he's just laying there on the ground. And the parents shows the shot in the picture. The parents, gasping and putting their hands over their face and this, that, and the other. And you can tell the kid isn't hurt, but you can tell he's not physically hurt, but you can tell his pride is hurt. He fell down. And what you see is the other 5 kids who are way ahead of him in the race. One of them looks back and sees him on the ground and stops running. And then the rest of them stop running. And so all the kids go back and they help this kid up. Then they all interlock their arms and they run down the track together and cross the finish line at the same time. And you see that and it just tugs at your heart. And you just think, this is great. And isn't this just the way the world should be? And that's what the commercial is. It's a public service announcement about taking care of each other and, sharing with each other and supporting each other and this, that, and the other. Now, normally you see something like that, And most people see something like that, and they think, like I said, your heart gets tugged on and you get a little emotion about it. Boy, wouldn't the world be such a better place if more people grasped this concept of helping your fellow brother or sister when they fall down. And isn't it telling that these 6 children with Down syndrome have enough sense to stop and help somebody when we adults with all our reasoning and intellect have a tendency to want to rip each other apart? And isn't it just the way it's supposed to be? And can't we learn a lesson from these children? I'm not mocking the lesson, and I'm certainly not mocking the children. What I am mocking is this idea that we need to be told and exhibited and demonstrated to in such a way that we will somebody exploited 6 kids with Down syndrome to try to bring a political message of progressive unity collectivism. And we use these children who are have some mental disabilities, and we're going to use them to exploit the rest of the world. And I'm sure their parents, the parents of these kids, are just pleased as punch, and I bet their chest is just beaming with pride that their child was selected to do this commercial. And I also bet these are people that drive around with the homosexual equality symbol and can't we all get along, and the coexist bumper stickers and feeling the burn bumper stickers and all this other stuff. See, this is what I'm talking about. It is the narrative. And the narrative is put out there in this particular example in such a way that anybody like me who will sit here and try to take it apart and analyze it for what it really is would be called a hater, would be called somebody, you have no feelings, you have no compassion. I mean, this is 6 kids with Down syndrome, and they have enough sense to stop and help their fallen brother up off the ground. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how the left has used narratives like this, or examples like this, to control the narrative, to guilt people into believing that if you look beyond something other than, if you look at this as anything other than just some kind of compassionate display of unified collectivism, then, you're some kind of Neanderthal. You're worse than death. And you're vile, and you're vitriol, and you have no feelings for anybody or anything. And of course, that means you must be a Republican, or you must be a conservative, or you must be a Christian, or a combination of the 3. That's how the narrative is played. That's how the narrative is played. And I wanted to bring that up here because this is what I see. This is what we have seen in just the last 48 hours. Come out of the GOP establishment, the Hail Marys, I call them the campaign Hail Marys, to try to take down Donald Trump. And again, I am not a Donald Trump supporter. I think of all the candidates, I think he's better than John Kasich. He was certainly better than Jeb Bush. And, those two, or Lindsey Graham for that matter, I would think Trump is eons heads above either one of those 3 gentlemen. But in terms of him being the right guy for the job, no, I don't see that. So I'm not supporting Donald Trump. And I'm not defending Trump's responses to these events that I'm about to lay out to you. What I am pointing out to you is that this is how politics play the game, have been playing the game probably since its inception, and will continue to play the game. The point being is that whether or not we, the electorate, the targets of these demonstrations and the narratives and everything else, are we going to allow ourselves to, one, be so duped that we just go along for fear of reprisal for standing against and resisting the narrative? Or are we going to be ostracized and marginalized and corralled, and at some point in time determined to be non-productive citizens? Will we be deported instead of all the illegals coming in? Will we be deported, or will we be sent to re-education centers? What is the social implications here if we who have our own mind and consider our own individual accountability and responsibility as first and foremost in the preservation of our republic, what's going to happen to us once this narrative gets to such a point that we truly do become a minority? Now, at this point in time, we are still, in the words of, I believe it was Jerry Falwell who coined the phrase, the silent majority, in the fact that most of us won't say anything. Most Christians I know just shudder when you start talking to them about calling evil evil. Start naming the homosexual movement instead of the gay movement. That kind of stuff. When you start calling abortion murder instead of abortion. When you start saying it's not pro-choice, or pro-life, it's anti-abortion and pro-abortion, that kind of stuff. And so we come out there and voice it what it is. We call it evil. We don't call it good, or we don't try to dress it down or make it feel better, make it easier to digest. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Remember that? So when this comes about, then what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? Are we going to end up going underground? Are we going to be underground Christians again? Are we going to be like the Christians back in the days of Rome? They had to go into catacombs to worship. Are we going to be so silenced that as soon as we say something, we're hauled into the court of public opinion and stoned to death? Is this where it could end up? I think it could. Our technology has not, it's advanced. We have very advanced technology, but the human mind has not advanced. It is still fallible. It is still wicked. It can still do some pretty drastic, nasty things. So these are the things I'm looking at as I look at these events that took place in the last 48 hours coming out of, I believe they came out of the GOP. This is not the leftist thing. We haven't seen the left launch against Donald Trump or Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or any of them at this point in time. The left is just, they're gearing up. Make no mistake about it. When the time is right, they'll launch. But at this point in time, everything has been from the GOP establishment. Now, what I'm talking about is there's three things that took place in the last 48 hours, and they were all aimed at Donald Trump. The first thing was the alleged endorsement by David Duke of the KKK of Donald Trump. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to read them off here to you. I'm just going to list them for you here, and then after our break here, we'll get into the details of this stuff. So David Duke supposedly or allegedly endorsed Donald Trump. The second one we heard in the debate the other night. I think it was Rubio who brought it forth first, but it was a suggestion made by Mitt Romney. And I think it was Rubio who brought it forth because Rubio is vying to be the establishment choice. Make no doubt about it. He wants to be the establishment choice. And at this point in time, I think the establishment wants him to be, he is their choice. But he's still playing the conservative song, still claiming to be the best conservative amongst everybody. And, a 90% conservative record when he shows up to vote. And then the third one was that Trump apparently had some secret meeting with the New York Times in which he said or stated to the board of the New York Times that his position on immigration was not set in stone. And then it was going to be, perhaps if he had to, in terms of dealing with Congress, what would he would cut a deal. Now, I happen to think that's probably a very feasible and plausible approach by Trump. And we've seen it in the past. We've seen all these candidates do it. It's not like Trump's the first one to do it. You trot out on the campaign trail how strict and firm and orthodox you're going to be with everything that you're going to do. And you get in office, and then you find out what's really going on. And you have to figure out how to play the game to get what you want, and blah, blah, blah. The compromise. Got to compromise in order to govern. That mantra that's been playing out here for forever. And so these three things were thrown up there for the purpose of trying to dissuade people to either vote for Trump or even bother to show up and vote. See, there's a lot to be said for trying to discourage people to vote. So those three things out there, and they're very telling. And so I want to talk about them as we wait for the results to start piling in. Probably in a half an hour or so, we'll start hearing from the mainstream media out there who's ahead and who's winning, and all their projections and everything else. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment, and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed-rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by CitizensUnited.org.
listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos, who's out ill right now, recovering from a very bad infection that put him on his back for, the better part, almost a month now. But he is feeling better, and he'll be back soon. So let's get back into the conversation we were having here before the break. I was talking about these Hail Marys. I call them the campaign Hail Marys that have been thrown out here in the last 48 hours to try to either slow Trump down or to take him down, try to create, what they're trying to do is create a gotcha moment, very much like what happened to Mitt Romney. And one of the events that took place, it was very much like Mitt Romney's. You'll remember the release, I think it came out on Mother Jones, of a video that somebody took at a Mitt Romney fundraiser where he had made a statement, something along the line of 47% of America will vote for Obama no matter what. And that was unleashed just a few days before the general election, and it did major damage to Mitt Romney's campaign. And I don't know that it caused people to vote for Barack Obama. I think what it did was it caused people to stay home, and perhaps on Obama's side, some people got irritated enough that they actually went out and got up and vote. I don't know how it worked out in terms of how the actual numbers actually went down. These kind of things we never know. But we do know that Mitt Romney did not win, and this was one of the things that really hurt him. The other thing that hurt Mitt Romney a lot was Harry Reid coming out and literally lying about Mitt Romney's tax returns, basically saying, he keeps all his money in the Cayman Islands, and his tax returns have some hidden stuff in them and everything else. And lo and behold, who trots out that very argument about Donald Trump but Mitt Romney, and is passed off to Marco Rubio during the last debate, and came to the surface. And, of course, the media grabbed a hold of it because here's an opportunity to create that lesser of two evil companionship that they want, Donald Trump versus a Hillary Clinton, and we'll find out who's the biggest hypocrite and who's the biggest player of the group. And that would be, for me, hard-pressed to determine. Trump is better at it, but that doesn't mean that Clinton hasn't done it herself, and in some ways been very effective also. So here's, and then the last one was, of course, this alleged endorsement by David Duke, head of the KKK. Now, I'm going to take the David Duke endorsement first because this is it's a two-sided thing here. I'll cover the easy part first. The easy part is that David Duke can believe whatever David Duke wants to believe. And there's nothing as far as I know, there's nothing at this point in time that tells a voter, a citizen of this country, what they must believe and why they must believe it. Now, we have arguments and debates as to why the beliefs of somebody or a group of people or an individual might not be good, might not be productive, might not represent what we are as Americans, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the right to believe what they want. As the way I like to often phrase it on this show, people have the right to be wrong, and you have the right to believe what you want to believe. Now, you'll stand accountable before your God, and you'll give an account of those beliefs, but you have been given by our sovereign God the sovereign right to choose what you believe, choose what and who you follow, and choose what you want to do with your life. That is the centerpiece of what we are as Americans. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness endowed by our Creator. Unalienable rights to be able to choose our course that we want to take in life. Now, David Duke also, I bet very few people have actually done this, but David Duke actually found a media network that was willing to give him airtime to come out and talk about his endorsement of Donald Trump. And the first thing that David Duke says, CNN was the network, by the way. I give him kudos for allowing David Duke to come on and talk about this endorsement of Donald Trump. Now, David Duke gives this kind of, half-assed explanation by coming out first and saying he did not endorse Donald Trump. He said, the media's out there telling everybody I endorsed Donald Trump. I did not endorse Donald Trump. What I said was Donald Trump should get our vote, a strategic vote, because Donald Trump is the only one that David Duke believes will deal with the immigration problem that we have in this country. So David Duke has taken he's taken a view on this. And he's saying, I support Donald Trump's candidacy as a strategic move against the influx of illegal immigrants in this country. Something has to be done to stop this. Okay? Now, but he emphasizes he didn't endorse him. Now, I don't know how you read that. I don't know how you can say, well, I believe what the guy believes, but I don't want to endorse him. Well, Duke tried to explain that. He said there's things that I agree with Trump, and there's things that I don't agree with him. He then went on to say he doesn't think Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz are good candidates, that they're not truthful, they're not honest, and they don't have the ability to do what they say they're going to do. Now, I'm going to tell you this. As I listened to David Duke talk about this, I felt here's a man that is very racial orientated. Why would he pick on Cruz and Rubio? Why didn't he pick on John Kasich or Ben Carson or Jeb Bush or Lindsey Graham, all of who hold views contrary to what David Duke says in terms of immigration? He didn't mention any of them, so I think there is a racial element to this. But the point being, Duke is saying, I didn't come out and endorse Donald Trump. The second thing Duke was talking about, or emphasized and spent quite a bit of time talking about, is that I have not been involved with the KKK for over 40 years. He said, I was their spokesperson for a period of 3 years, 40 years ago, and I left the KKK. In fact, I ran for office. He ran for office, and he served in the House of Representatives for the state of Louisiana. And he ran for governor of Louisiana and was very popular, except that he was taken down by the GOP establishment that didn't want him in there. Now, that's his claim. I don't know. I didn't follow David Duke's campaign. But here's the point. This guy said, I have not been involved in any way, shape, or form with the KKK for 40 years, and they're still out there telling the American public David Duke, head of the KKK, endorsed Donald Trump. So David Duke was out there what he did in his 17-minute dissertation on CNN was basically say the media took something that happened 40 years ago, and they have groomed it to imply or insinuate by association something that, one, I did not do, two, that I am not a part of, for the purpose of taking down a candidate which I happen to think has the best position on immigration, and that's why I would vote for him. So you see how the media plays that. Now, where did that come from? Did that come from the left? Well, if this was the general election, you could say that. But this came from the GOP. Somebody in the GOP dug this crap up and threw it out there and said, let's see if it sticks. Let's see if we can get the people that are so afraid of being called racist and haters and homophobes, let's see if we can keep them from going to the polls. Because the thing with Donald Trump is this. A lot of the people that are voting for Donald Trump, and we've reported it on this show, a lot of the people that have supported Donald Trump are people that, one, have never voted before or have not voted in at least 2 or 3 election cycles, some of them 4 or 5 election cycles. And Donald Trump is vocalizing their frustration and their anger at the state of government in this nation, this republic. As we talked about yesterday, Donald Trump is not an ideological person. He holds no ideology per se. What he is he's a populist capitalist who knows how to capitalize on what's going on. And so what he's done is he's vocalized frustration. People that are voting for him are people that have not voted in the past because they've been frustrated and don't believe their vote means anything, or people that have never voted finally saying, oh, I finally got somebody that I feel good enough to vote about, and showing up. Donald Trump is as much as responsible for the record turnouts in these elections as is Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio. Because what it's done, all 3 of these candidates have ignited the base, whatever that base is, and have got these people off their couches and out to vote. Now, the ideology of Donald Trump, again, is not conservative ideology, it's populist ideology. But a lot of conservatives I know, don't care about the ideology right now. What they care about is somebody is saying what I've been saying and saying it in a place that other people are hearing it, and I believe that that's going to bring some type of change if we get somebody like this in office. That's what's driving this whole thing. The conservatives are getting up and saying, we've got to stop this. Ted Cruz is our guy because somebody's got to stop this madness. And Cruz is the only one that's got a record that even remotely resembles what a conservative should do or would do in a position of power and authority. Marco Rubio, of course, is the establishment guy. He's the guy that should have been Jeb Bush but wasn't, so he's the next best thing. Out there telling everybody he's conservative. A man who was mentored by Jeb Bush is telling me he's a conservative. I don't think so. But I wanted to bring this up to you, these Hail Marys that are being thrown out there. I don't know if they're going to affect the vote or not. I don't know if they're going to stop Trump. He's on a roll. Give it to him. The guy knows how to play the game. Only candidate I've seen outside of Barack Obama that could get up on a debate and not answer any questions and gain numbers every time he walks off the stage. Just by calling somebody an idiot, a liar, ugly, stupid, whatever, and he gets votes. Why? Because that is the attitude of the electorate right now. I want these people to know that I think they're bleeping idiots. And Donald Trump is saying it. Therefore, yeah, he's my guy. Now, irrelevant of his history or who he is or what he's going to do, I just want somebody to let these people know that I think they're all a bunch of idiots and they're liars and they've cheated on me and they've betrayed me and everything else. That's what's driving this whole election. It has nothing to do with what direction the country's going. It has more to do with wanting to express anger. We got to go to a break. When we come back, I'm going to continue on this. And so stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
And welcome back to the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, who's out right now. Well, he should be back, hopefully, by the middle of this week. I know we've been saying that for the last 3 weeks, but Joe really is recovering. And just thank you for the prayers out there. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing here already, I'm trying to follow these live blogs that are out there so that I can keep you informed as to what's going on here. About the closest thing I'm seeing right now to any type of results is Shepard Smith over at Fox News is reporting that Marco Rubio apparently has had a good turnout in what they refer to as late deciders, people that have waited to the last minute to vote. And exit polls, he's given us exit polls. This is the way they play it right now. They don't actually have numbers, so they'll ask people to come out, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the exit polls are accurate, but sometimes they are, and so they play the gamble. Okay, let's get some kind of sense, something so they can report so they sound intelligent, that kind of thing. But they're saying that in Virginia, Georgia, and Oklahoma, the exit polls are showing Rubio has won. In Virginia, they're showing, and the exit polls are showing Rubio took 38%, Ted Cruz took 18%, John Kasich took 17%, and Trump came in at 15%. Now, let's not try to speculate beyond that. These are exit polls. That means, out of 1,000 people coming out of the polls, they probably asked 50. Who did you vote for? That kind of thing. And they're able to come up with these numbers. The other thing is they're saying Shepard Smith is telling us that that Rubio actually lost Nevada by 20 points. Okay? That was the last, I'm sorry. That was the last primary. They're trying to make a comparison here. That Rubio has done well with last-minute votes, last-minute deciders, but he also did that in Nevada and still lost by 20 points. I think that's what they're trying to get across to us here. So let's not read more into that than there is. But it's saying right now that apparently it looks pretty good for Rubio in Virginia, Georgia, and Oklahoma. Now, they don't give any other numbers. Virginia is the only one they're giving numbers on right here. Exit polls are showing 38% for Rubio, 18% for Cruz, 17% for Kasich, and 15% for Trump, which would really be something. That would really be something, would it not? Anyway, so anyhow, so that's what's going on there. Now, back to my rant here that I was carrying on about earlier, and let's see here. Let's see. Okay, this situation that's going on here with these Hail Marys being launched by the Republican Party, by the GOP establishment. And I just want to kind of sum this up here. 3 events that took place within the last 48 hours here, right? We're talking about Trump supposedly making some kind of remarks to the New York Times board that his stern stance on immigration in terms of deportation and everything else is open to negotiation because he's going to make a deal. Now, that sounds like Donald Trump. That's what he keeps telling us. He's going to make all these deals. And we know if we read Donald Trump's book, this is something that was floated out in the very early parts of the campaign, that Trump is in his deal making, he talks about how he makes deals. And what he does is he goes out and he goes for the gold ring. This is what I want. And it makes sense. We're going to deport all 11, 12 million illegal aliens here in the country. And we're going to build a wall, and we're going to build it big, and Mexico's going to pay for it. And when former Mexican President Vincent said, no, we're not going to effing pay for that wall, what did Trump say? Oh, yeah, well, we're going to make it 10 feet higher. That's the Trump persona. Throw it out there. This is what I'm going to do. And then, of course, it's the process of negotiation. Walk it back till you get whatever you want. Now, on Hannity, Trump pretty much admitted this. Hannity asked him during the interview on what you said. Again, I was really disappointed that Sean Hannity did not take Trump to task on substance. I'm not saying he had to attack Trump as a person or a candidate, but I'm really surprised he didn't take him to task on substance. They basically was a stroking session between Trump and Hannity. Oh, you're nice to see you. You're a nice guy. You got a good show. Some of your people on Fox aren't very good, but Hannity, you're right. You're an all right guy. That kind of stuff. It went back and forth like that all night long. But here it is. Let's see. Trump says here. We'll talk about that one later. About his remarks about the being establishment. That's one of the things they're out there talking about. Okay, now, when we, immigration here, let's see if, let me get back down here where it was. Okay. Hannity asked him about the immigration situation. And this was Donald Trump's response. He said, and it was really kind of like what he was saying. They were talking about the Mexican wall, the wall of Mexico, the one that former President Vincent said nobody's going to pay for this. Vincent Fox or Fox, whatever his name was, okay? And Trump said this, we're going to make such great deals. We're going to change those deals. We're going to rip those deals up, and we're going to have real trade deals. Okay, now he's talking about trade. Okay, now, I've got to get back up here. Boy, I highlighted this just so I would be able to call this up here real quickly here. And let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Let's get back down here. Maybe it was towards the bottom when they got to that. Let's go down a little bit farther here. And, okay, here it is. Hannity says, let's see here. Where we got? Hannity. The New York Times is claiming today that they had an off-the-record conversation with you in January. Off the record, by the way. Now they're leaking it. Trump, yes, of course. Hannity, typical media. Trump, no, the most dishonest media group. And it's also failing. I call it the failing New York Times. See, here's the attack. The failing New York Times. Yeah, they're a bad paper. They suck. They're losing business. They're going out of business. They're going it's doing so badly, it's dying. But I did. We had a board meeting. It was off the record. All of a sudden they leak it. It's all over the place. Hannity says they said, it's negotiable on the law. Trump, everything, by the way, is negotiable. Things are negotiable. I'll be honest with you. I'll make the wall 2 feet shorter or something, joking about it. Trump, everything's negotiable. Hannity, but it's not negotiable about building it. Actually, said I, Trump says, no, not negotiable. Hannity, it's not negotiable about, would it be negotiable about the 11 million? Maybe let's say some people stay if they register in a period of time. Trump, I would say this. Now listen to this. I would say this. Look, I've always said we have some good people over here, and they're going to go out, but we will work out some system that's fair. But we either have a country or we don't. We need a border. We need a wall. We need a wall. I won the New Hampshire, not right off track, not talking about the answer, talking about something else. And they have a tremendous heroin problem. And I promised the people of New Hampshire we're going to stop that heroin from coming in. It's a very hard thing to kick. And they have we're going to work on the people that have the habit already, and we're going to try to get them all better. Government involvement. Government should not be involved in the rehabilitation business. We got to try and get them better. They have it's bad, all the places, okay. But there's always going to be, this is Trump again, there's always going to be some negotiation. Whether the wall is 50 feet tall or 40 feet tall. And one of the reporters said to me, they said, well, what happens, Vincent Fox made the statement. How do you respond? Because it was arrogant, terrible, horrible statement. Now we're back to the attack. Still no substance as to what he's saying in terms of what kind of deal he's going to make. That's my point here. How do I respond? The wall just got 10 feet higher. There was never an answer as to how this wall was going to be paid for. He ended up saying it was going to come out of the trade bill. They already owe us $58 billion. Somehow, what are we going to do? We're going to take that $58 or $10 million that he says it's going to cost to build this thing? $10 billion to build it? Where's he going to get that? You're going to take it out of a debt? How do you do that? They owe us some money. How are you going to do that? He's saying they're going to do it in trade exchange. I don't know how that figures out. Maybe discounts? I don't know. I don't know how that works out. But my point being is that there was no substance as to how he was actually going to do it. It's all about, I'm going to make a deal. But he did admit it's negotiable. That's my point. We got to go to break here. We're at the top of the hour. Ron Edwards, Notebook, and pay some bills. And then Don Dix from Act for America will join me in the second hour as we start seeing some results here from the primary. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
American students are right to be sick and tired of the two-headed monster political system of today. But they must learn before it's too late that neither Bernie, Hillary, or Rubio are good alternatives. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, young people are going out in droves to get involved in or to openly show their disapproval with what they consider to be the status quo political and economic system in America. But unfortunately, thanks but no thanks to years of government school indoctrination against all that is good, including liberty, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, the traditional family, and even God himself, many high school and college students believe that communism is the way the republic should lean. They are hoodwinked into thinking that communism, which gives all power to the government, will somehow unveil more freedom for we the people. When asked how will companies grow to provide needed jobs, many students just said the government will provide jobs and that companies are all corrupt. Such a sad state of affairs. And to add insult to injury, America's government school system is the most expensive self-destructive operation of any nation throughout history. However, I am inclined to believe that America will soon witness a positive reversal of this madness as providential wisdom returns to the United States of America. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet. Theying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Akos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Akos.
We're back. Hour 2 coming to you live right now, coast to coast and around the world. Nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, the Conservative Syndicate. We're glad to have you with us tonight. Super Tuesday out there, and we're starting to see some numbers rolling in now. Again, where the polls have been closed all of 5 minutes, and all the news media is out there. Who's going to be the first one to report whether or not Trump is just going to march on and just stampede over everybody else or not? But we are hearing some preliminary things out there. The Hillary Clinton campaign is announcing that they've won Georgia and Virginia already. And then that's what they're tweeting out there off of Hillary's Twitter account. Now, the other thing they're talking about here in, I believe it's in Virginia, right now they're saying it's really close between Rubio and Trump right now. That's all they're saying. Too close to call. It looks like it's a close race out there in Virginia between Rubio and Donald Trump. Rubio spent $250,000 in there in the last-ditch effort, and, we'll see how that plays out. That's really all that we're hearing out there right now. One is saying here that Trump is currently leading in Georgia. That's what they're saying. Clinton wins Georgia and Virginia, and Trump is on track to win Georgia. Nobody's saying that Trump has won yet. They're just, maybe exit polls, whatever numbers or whatever models they're using to determine what's going on. So that's what we have at this point, is that Georgia is, at least by reports, or at least one report here by Grants Franca-Ruda at one of the websites out there. She's saying that Trump is on track to win Georgia. Doesn't say that he has or hasn't. Hillary, it's being announced here that she won Georgia and Virginia already. And let's see what they're saying now. Yeah, it looks like they're saying it looks like right now, what I'm reading right now, I'm just reading this right off the feed here. Looks like Rubio might actually win Virginia. That's what they're saying. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a toss-up in Virginia. The reports are that Trump is leading in Georgia. So that's pretty much what we got up to this point. And we'll try to stay up with it and continue as we go on here. Now, I was talking here about, in the first hour, about Trump's electability, or his campaign versus, what he's actually going to do. And Trump is no different. Trump has tried to play this "I'm not a politician" card. But one of the things I wanted to bring up here, earlier in the interview that he had with Sean Hannity the night before last, it might have been last night, but it was within the last 48 hours. I'm having a senior moment when it comes to time, so just bear with me here. But he was talking about, let's see, I want to get that back up here. Okay, he was talking about, one of the things that Trump has been trying to say all through his campaign is he's not a politician. He's an outsider. And this is one of the things I've been talking about from at least the last few weeks. If he is an outsider, and if he's not a politician, then why does he say and often claim that he's made so many deals with politicians? He is a politician. He is a politician that's never been elected to office. He is special interest. He is his own lobbyist. And when he was talking to Hannity the other night, he admitted it. He says, behind the scenes, I used to be establishment. I'd write big checks all the time. I was establishment. When I did this, I was sort of very anti-establishment. So he's saying, I played the establishment for the fools that they are. And I gave them money. And then he tried to back that up by being a self-funder. He tried to justify it or rationalize it or distract from what he had just said by talking about him being a self-funder. But he says, and then he goes on and say, when he talks about the establishment, they have everybody taken care of one way or the other through political contributions. So he's talking about lobbyists and special interests. They have everybody taken care of one way or the other through political contributions and probably worse. But I would never say that, of course, but through political campaign contributions. And the lobbyists and the special interests and all, they control everything. With me, there are no lobbyists. There are no special interests. I'm going to do what's right if we have to. Okay? Well, that's because Donald Trump is his own special interest and he is his own lobbyist. But he just gave a double-sided argument or response here. Yeah, I used to be establishment. I wrote checks to people and things got done. I got things that I wanted, but I'm not establishment. And there's special interests out there. But because I'm self-funded, I'm not taking any money from these special interests. Why? Because he made his money by being a special interest. And then he turns around and tells us that, well, politicians can't get anything done. Remember how he closed the debate the other night? Politicians don't get anything done. Well, then, Trump, how is it that if you're such a great deal maker and you've written all these big checks and you've gotten so many things done with politicians and you're not special interest and you're not a lobbyist, how is it that you can turn around and say these people don't get anything done? Are you just throwing your money away? Are you just telling us that you did all these things and didn't do them? Or is the truth that you are a special interest and you are a lobbyist and you're just, the only difference now is you're marketing yourself rather than your business? You are Trump, the special interest. You are Trump, the lobbyist. And you expect that when you get in office, you're going to be able to cut the same types of deals that you've been cutting. And in doing that, we're going to make America great again. There's your argument. That's what's being said. And I'm surprised Hannity did not take him to task. This is our short segment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Don Dix from Act for America will be with us, and we'll get his views on things. Stay with us right here at Conservative Syndicate.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you have been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews. And right now we have with us Don Dix from Act for America doing his bi-weekly segment with us, coming on as one of our more intellectual contributors. And,
don't say that.
I wanted to start out by asking you, Don, what do you... I've been talking all the first hour. I was talking about what I call these GOP Hail Marys that materialized in the last 48 hours, lobs against Donald Trump. Also prefacing my comments by saying I'm not a Trump supporter, but I find it remarkable that in the last 48 hours we've had three things lobbed out there. One, David Duke, who the media is claiming is the head of the KKK, though he hasn't been with the KKK for over 40 years, endorsed Trump. Duke came out and said he did not endorse Trump. The second is the tax thing that was brought up in the debate the other night, that there's something hidden in Donald Trump's taxes. That was forayed out there by Mitt Romney using the Harry Reid tactic. And then, of course, this secret conversation that took place between Trump and the board of the New York Times, in which Trump said he would negotiate the situation with the immigration problem. And those things all being lobbed out there in hopes of trying to take Trump down. What's your take on that? I just see that as despicable, even though I'm not a Trump supporter.
Well, good day on this wonderful Super Tuesday, John. How are you?
Good. And we'll talk about some of the results of polling, but I wanted to get your take on this. This is so typical of what we're seeing so much now in every election cycle, these last-minute barrages of insinuations and implications trying to take somebody down.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's too little too late, and it does smack of an act of desperation on the part of, both sides, whether it's originating on the left or the right. It's really just too much, too little too late. They completely, along with all the pundits, I was just reading an article today that was kind of recapping the last sort of 8 months of the rise of Donald Trump. And you had everybody from, right-leaning to left-leaning pundits that said, this guy's got no legs. He's got no, he's doing this to increase his brand and, all sorts of excuses. And, I think Donald Trump was probably a little surprised at the reaction, too, because I think a lot of people underestimated the angst of the grassroots and the middle class and underestimated, really how angry people were and that they would reach out and grab, sort of anything that smacked of, a insurgent, which Donald Trump clearly is. But yeah, it's too little too late. It's politics as usual. The thing that's always concerned me in this particular race was the circular firing squad of the GOP. Notice how I want to say gentlemanly the left has been. In the first debate, Bernie Sanders extends the olive branch to Hillary Clinton about, hey, I've had enough about the email thing too. It's never really even been a topic of any of the debates, and it's one of the most vulnerable things for contemplating a commander-in-chief who, in the face of a purposeful breach of national security for her personal convenience and or, even more nefarious purposes, whether it was to hide her activities on behalf of the Clinton Global Initiative, their sort of money laundering bit, whether they were, using the Secretary of State position to gather funds for that, whatever the reason, she's completely unfit to be the commander-in-chief, and that Bernie Sanders and the left did not beat her over the head with that shows you how different the playbook is from the left and the right. So it sort of doesn't surprise me in a way. It's just now all of a sudden with their backs up against the wall, they're reaching for anything that can get legs. And unfortunately, what they're going to do is all of this stuff is going to become fodder for the left if Donald Trump emerges victorious from this. And that's one of the more heartbreaking things about it is that these quote unquote trumped up issues, and I do believe they're trumped up beyond, I think there's more important things you could lay at the feet of Donald Trump, like how many times has he even used the word Constitution? And I think those are more important issues rather than the junk that's been thrown at him. So, yeah, I'm with you, John.
Yeah, one of the things I was talking about earlier in the week was I watched a Megyn Kelly special. I think it was on last Friday. And she did something that I thought should be the model for these debates. And I'll explain why here. She had 4 of the 5 Republican candidates there. Donald Trump did not want to come. And what she did in 2 hours was she put each of the 4 candidates in a room full of voters for 1/2 hour, and she allowed the voters to ask the questions. And if the candidates began to veer into their talking points or whatever, she would bring them back and say, this is what the question was. And it was very informative. Now, what I noticed the next day at the debate was much of what was said in those forums on Megyn Kelly's show were said on the debate stage. There was some of them almost verbatim in terms of words, how they explained their positions. And I'm thinking the only thing that distracted from it was the noise. It was the name calling, the back and forth, and it completely diluted what these people were saying. So when we talk about a lack of substance, there was substance being offered, but all the white noise, I call it, this back and forth and name calling and this, that, and the other, it diluted that, and people were paying more attention. I even found myself paying more attention to the name calling than what was being offered in terms of substance, even though the day before I'd heard pretty much the same thing and was able to digest the whole thing. So it really is telling in terms of how the process is playing out, particularly in this one, like you said, with the circular firing squad that we're witnessing across the board here. But as you were talking here, I'm looking at some of the poll numbers that are coming out, or most of it's exit polls right now. But it doesn't look like it's going to be a solid win for anybody. Kasich right now is winning Vermont. Rubio's winning Virginia. They expect Cruz to take Texas. Trump is leading in Georgia. So it's kind of like we may end up at the end of this thing when nobody's still having a clear-cut number of delegates, which now takes us back to let me jump over here to the Democrat side, what you were talking about. I have pretty much resigned myself to, unless Hillary Clinton is indicted, she will take the nomination if by nothing else, superdelegates. She's got Bernie Sanders buried as far as superdelegates go, and she only has to split these primary states with him to be able to utilize those superdelegates. She'll walk away with this thing. What do you think?
Well, I think that die has been cast. My only hope is that Bernie Sanders' campaign manager late in the day here is saying that they are planning on going all the way to the convention. And I hope that's true, because my biggest concern is that I wish going into Super Tuesday, God bless him, Ben Carson, and God bless him, John Kasich, I wish they had bowed out, because one of the things that's going to happen if Bernie Sanders does stay in, like his campaign manager is saying, then at least it's going to distract Hillary from focusing her money and attention over on the GOP side. If Bernie Sanders stays in, like his campaign manager is saying, then at least there's going to be that continuing sort of distraction she's going to deal with to some degree or another. I wish that Kasich and Carson had bowed out so that we could see a more accurate sort of reflection of where those Kasich-Carson voters are going to go. Because clearly they had all of the conversation has been, the 3 front runners, and they have actually hurt the GOP side by staying in as long as they have, then helped. they've gone beyond sort of their usefulness in keeping their ideas and conversations in the forefront. It's become a liability for the GOP, I think. I love both of them, but for different reasons, and it's just unfortunate. So, my hope is that enough people that go into the. I mean, it was literally one third of the folks that were going into elections today were still were undecided as of a day or two ago. So there was still a good chunk of people that were up for grabs. And my only hope is that the people that were going to cast votes for Carson or for Kasich realize the sort of the futility of that against what's happening, and throw their lot in with either Rubio or Cruz. The last 4 days have generated a tremendous amount of clarity that for all the good that he's done up till now in terms of instigating conversations about immigration and national security, Donald Trump is starting to scare me as commander-in-chief. He really is. And I'm wondering, in the back of my mind, the thought started to emerge: are we trading a sort of Obama of the right for Obama? Is there that, or are those nuances in Donald Trump's personage, just basically a right-leaning version of Obama? And it quite frankly scares me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I see the way I see this whole thing shaping up here is that given the dynamics of this right now, there's several things that I just keep floating through my head here, different scenarios that I'm looking at depending on what we see, especially after tonight, and even more so after March 15th. By March 15th, we're pretty much going to have a pretty clear idea of who's going to be winning this thing, and if it continues down the road that it's going, and we don't have it disrupted through the brokered convention, which I still think is very much a probability. But that side, that's pure speculation at this point. But we see this idea of, Trump is hitting these numbers, hasn't hit the 50% mark yet. The GOP has their rules set up. He's got to take at least 8 states with a 50% majority or more to even claim all the delegates that he's won up to this point. And that's their little out. That's what they're looking at. Mitch McConnell's out there saying if Trump wins, they're going to drop him. In fact, he's encouraging senators to run ads in the self-preservation mode to go against Trump to preserve their own place in the Senate. So he's not going to get much support. And that, which leads me to my question here, is that let's say, speculation in my mind is that if this is a split, let's say Trump takes half the states and the rest of them get divided up between the rest of them. And Trump is still sitting out there with, some pretty good numbers, still high favorability in national level, blah, blah, blah. And Rubio and Cruz somebody decides, if we throw our forces together, we can take this guy down. And now, does that mean Trump jumps the party? He's got Mitch McConnell's already saying we're not going to support him. You have the Cruz-Rubio teaming up and say, yeah, we got to take this guy out. And you think at that point Trump might say, okay, the heck with this. You guys have not honored your vow that you made me sign. Why don't I just go third party?
Well, yeah, there is that conversation. I just have a real. Well, if he does do that, that would say a lot about Donald Trump's character, quite frankly, and that's the thing that scares me is the unknowableness of it. He has changed. He leans a lot. He says, Reagan was a liberal and he made the conversion. Well, we had 17 years of proof of Reagan having made the conversion over to being a conservative. We have got 6 months.
Right.
And not much even in terms of policy or proof that Donald Trump has made the real transition.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me about Donald Trump. And I'll tell you what, if he does go third party, that would be a disaster that would ensure a Clinton victory. And, that scares the heck out of me.
Yeah, I agree. It really bothers me much more now than it did before. because the one thing I keep saying every time I talk about Donald Trump is that here's a guy that every time he's asked something, all we hear about is what a great deal he's going to make on something. And it's going to be so great, our heads are going to spin. We heard that with Barack Obama. It's like he took the Hope and Change campaign of Barack Obama and renamed it, Let's Make America Great Again. And we're getting the same kind of stuff, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of, rah-rah talk, pep rally, and everything else. Virtually no substance. And even his campaign people are telling us, well, if you want to know his position on things, go to his website. I'm like, well, you know what? Somebody typed that on his website. If he can't articulate what's on his website, he probably doesn't know what it is or probably doesn't believe it. And that is the scary thing, is that we've got an electorate out there that they really don't care about anything other than the fact that you got this white mad man running around calling everybody stupid and ugly, and that is sufficient qualifications to run for the office of president. We got to go to a break here real quick here. We'll be right back with Don Dix from Act for America. Right now it's time for Moments of Madness. Don't go away. Today on Moments of Madness. As the Trump campaign continues to wreak havoc, like a disgruntled elephant escaping the circus from its cruel ringmaster during the main event, the astonishment on display of the now decades-old GOP establishment, yes, it has been around that long, reminds me of Mel Brooks' 2005 film, The Producers. If you watch this over-the-top satire that targets the hypocrisy that permeates Hollywood, you'll remember chronically depressed, introverted bookkeeper Leo Bloom, played by Matthew Broderick, who, while looking to escape his mundane 9-to-5 existence as a bookkeeper, teams up with washed-up Broadway producer Max Bialystock, played by Nathan Hall. After determining during an audit of Bialystock's books the IRS seldom audit failed productions, the two set out to produce the worst play they can find in hope of embezzling the capital raised free from any lawful oversight. They choose a play entitled Springtime for Hitler, written by Nazi sympathizer Franz Liebken, played by Will Ferrell, who they also cast in the leading role of Hitler. Cross-dressing homosexual actor-director Roger Debris, played by Gary Beach, is enlisted to direct and also ends up playing Hitler due to Franz breaking his leg on opening night. The humorous irony occurs when the play becomes an overnight sensation, placing Bialystock and Bloom in the crosshairs of not only investors but the law. In the same manner, Trump has rocked the foundation of the GOP establishment elite, directing his own rendition of Springtime for Hitler by repackaging Obama's Hope and Change as Make America Great Again. The difference being his self-funded campaign allows him to write his script as he goes, complete with rewrites of his positions in the past with zero accountability to his stated party, the special interest money that normally trumps the will of the electorate, and even the electorate itself. Trump has neutralized the media bias that normally reduces the will of the electorate to a choice between the lesser of two evils, and has actually forced the media elites into an unwilling alliance, garnering more attention than all the other candidates from both parties combined, all at no cost to him or his campaign. Here's the madness. Anyone who believes Trump's path to the White House will steer around a broker convention believes so under a dangerous false pretense. Those who believe such an action by the elites would result in an uprising of an enraged electorate that would march on Washington or stay home from the polls, depriving them of the victory they claim they seek, simply do not understand today's GOP. The dangerous false pretense I speak of is the elitists care what we think. The issues that matter to us mean absolutely nothing to today's GOP establishment. The evidence is obvious to anyone that takes just a moment to observe what has happened over the last 7+ years under Obama. Today's GOP does not want to govern conservatively. In fact, they wish not to govern at all. To support a Trump nomination is the kiss of death. If Trump runs against Hillary, the elitists on the other side, and loses, this allows the GOP elites to continue to talk a conservative game before surrendering to their enemies because they have, quote, no power. If the GOP wins the White House with Trump or even Cruz, they risk being exposed as people who would rather have Hillary. In the name of self-preservation, that cannot happen. The hard truth is today's electorate proves Jonathan Gruber's theorem. The stupidity of the American voter is the premise by which both establishments, left and right, chart their agenda, count their candidates, and govern, or don't govern. In the same way leftists believe in the creation of utopia, too many on our side believe the likes of Trump will induce a change in Congress that will restore our republic. Both are delusional. We might as well be learning our new national anthem, Der Guten Tag Hauptklop, the sacred Siegfried Oath from Springtime for Hitler. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Hey, welcome back. I am your host, John Matthews, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. We have with us today Don Dix from Act for America doing his bi-weekly contribution to our show, one of our Conservative Syndicate panel members. Don, I wanted to just step back here, dance back here to my long dissertation before the break here and ask you, what do you think the chances are of somebody, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio teaming together to try to bring Trump down?
Well, that's a good question. Boy, they did shake during a commercial break. They did shake hands behind Donald Trump at the debate last Thursday night. That was kind of interesting. You saw Marco Rubio walk behind Donald Trump and shake Ted Cruz's hand when they kind of ganged up on him. I think that. I don't know if that can happen, quite frankly. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, in order to be I don't think ego in certain cases is a bad thing unless it goes out of control. I don't think either of their egos are so out of control that, they become a Donald Trump or an Obama. But I think that when you get into that place, your ego says, I'm the guy. And I don't know if it's early enough for them to come together. I really don't.
Well, I can see
what do you
that,
think?
but I never saw the chemistry between Ronald Reagan and Bush Sr. So I never really saw the chemistry between Lyndon Johnson and John Kennedy. Sometimes what do they say? Politics make strange bedfellows. I think the way I see it, it's all speculation at this point, but an alliance between these two, whether it be based on stopping Trump or thinking, between the two of us, we might be able to get something done in terms of attracting voters. If you remember, Lyndon Johnson was chosen as vice president, not because John Kennedy liked him, but because Texas held the votes that Kennedy knew he was going to need to win. And so I think, Rubio, he's going to get the establishment types, and Cruz is going to get the conservative types. That might be enough to offset what goes on in terms of Trump's bringing in the independents and all the riffraff that's out there that can't make their minds up about what they want to do. So, but again, the wrench in the works here is, in my opinion, is that it seems in this election cycle, in particular with the Republicans, the concept of ideology is completely irrelevant to what's going on. It's more about just wanting to be angry and wanting to say, we want to give Washington the middle finger, man. We want to give them the bird. And if it means losing everything in the process, at least we have the satisfaction of doing that. That's what I see. And that's what scares me.
Well, yeah. Well, that's part of what scares me about, quite frankly, a Trump presidency is it so fractures the Republican Party that it actually works to the advantage of the inside the Beltway GOP elites if Donald Trump is elected, because it enables them to go back and pick up the pieces in a way that I don't think that they would have had if it's kind of counterintuitive in a way. If a Rubio or a Ted Cruz victory, they're not going to have quite the same leverage behind the scenes. But with a Trump presidency, I see that just strengthening the behind-the-scenes GOPers in the meantime, because he's so antithetical to that. And when the thing that actually, when I started really critically thinking about Donald Trump was when he was asked, what does it mean to be a conservative? And it was on one of the Sunday talk show hosts. I can't remember who it was, but he had a 5-minute answer. And in the first 15 seconds, he didn't even answer the question, and then he pivoted to his other big talking points. He never answered, what does it mean to be a conservative? And that's when I said, this guy is bad news. This guy cannot even articulate the conservative worldview, and he's pivoting to his stream of consciousness talking points and ignoring the question. So would it be great if a Rubio-Cruz alliance came together? Sure. How does that work? I'm not smart enough to be able to see how that plays out over the next 3-4 weeks as the other primary.
Yeah, well, I think for something like that to come about, Trump has got to take more than half the states today and take a whole bunch of them on March 15th and look like, he's coasting. And then perhaps at that point, some strategist manages to get these people in a room and say, look, this is what we're looking at. Because I'll tell you, the other thing I fear is watching or listening to Donald Trump stand across from Hillary Clinton, because this is going to be a debate. Any debate that these two have, it's going to be about which one is the less corrupt, which one is the less paid off. Trump, in his interview with Hannity the other night, Hannity had him on, and I was really, really upset that Hannity did not take Trump to task. It was all pretty much softball stuff. But in the conversation, Hannity was alluding to the fact of, special interests and everything else. And Trump immediately downplayed all that by announcing first that he was establishment. He's, I used to write checks and things used to happen. And then he turns right around, as you just mentioned, and deflects by saying, but my campaign now is self-funded, so I don't have any lobbyists and I don't have any special interests. And I'm sitting there thinking, here's a guy that just told us he is a lobbyist and he is special interest. He's Donald Trump's lobbyist and he's Donald Trump's special interest. But just because now he's self-funding his campaign from money he's made by being in special interest and a lobbyist in his business, he can now carry this oratory and tell us that he's not being bought off. He's already bought off, and he's already bought off the people he needs to buy off. My question, I want to get your opinion on this. Here's my question. I know I've been rambling here. I'm giving long dissertations for my questions, but
that's okay.
There's a method to my madness here. If Donald Trump sits there and tells us that he's made all these deals with politicians, that they're all his friends, that he knows he likes them all, he gets along with all of them, and then when he closed the debate the other night, he closed it by saying, politicians never get anything done. And that hit me, and I went, well, if they never get anything done, then have you been really making deals with these people, or are you just throwing your money at them and nothing is getting done? Apparently, if you're writing checks and they're doing things, something is getting done. And so you're now going to tell us that they don't do anything. So what is it, Donald? Do they do things? Do they make deals, or do they not do anything? See, that's double-sided talk, and that's how this guy operates. he detracts from the answer, and you get some gobbledygook and usually a couple of insults thrown in there somewhere, and he doesn't ever answer the question outright.
Well, this is what you've really got to pay close attention to with Donald Trump, and that's why in this age of sound bites and lack of real personal discovery, because that was the whole thing. If you look at what got Barack Obama into office in 2008, it was people listening to his campaign rhetoric, his sound bites, and not digging below the surface to say, well, who really is this guy? Who were the people who influenced his years? What did he do in school? Oh, we can't get his records. What did he do? Where was he raised? Oh, 7 years in a madrasa in Indonesia. And then he was under the tutelage of a guy by the name of Frank Marshall Davis, a communist. Oh, and then he aligned himself with radicals on Columbia University campus. Those things matter. And I think today that the anger that people are feeling is overpowering their ability to sort of say, let's just take a step back and who is this guy? And let's make a good decision. And that's the inertia. Those are the times we live in, and Donald Trump is capitalizing on it. And that's what's really enabling him to, lead these other people, is that people aren't looking beneath these sound bites that he produces, and he knows it. And that's how he's using the media. Great line of his, it's like, Donald Trump, or, are you really going to get Mexico to build the wall? Of course, because I've got the media to pay for my entire campaign. Mm-hmm. So, I believe that he can get certain things done. I love the story that he told at the South Carolina Tea Party convention about what he did with the skating rink in New York. It's a kind of a quintessential, what can Donald Trump accomplish from a building standpoint? But beyond that, when it comes to adhering to a constitution, to the rule of law, to the fact that, you've got a box you've got to operate within as the president, can he do that? That's what scares me.
Yeah, it is. It's extremely scary that we've come to this place where it just all reason and logic just seems to have been launched out the window. And like I said earlier, the fact that we have Hillary Clinton still running in the lead, still leading this thing, outside, of course, Bernie Sanders is wacko. This guy is as crazy as they come, but at least he's not on the verge of being indicted for something, and here's this woman who 60% of the people that support her say that she's dishonest. They admit that she's dishonest, but she's still the best choice. I mean, it defies logic and reason, but that's what the country has come to today, because so many of our fellow citizens, I just think, don't really care, or maybe their own lives are so dysfunctional that, it's just, hey, it's like one of the family, it's like having a crazy uncle out there. We got to go to a break here real quick, and when we come back, we'll tie all the loose ends here together, because I wanted to, as I promised, make my prediction as to how this whole thing is going to play out between now and March 15th. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Welcome back. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews. I want to remind you, you can go to our website if you want to rehash this show tonight. Go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and you can pick it up there, pick up all of our archives, find out what you want to know about our panel and everything that we do in this show, theconservativesyndicate.net. I've got Don Dix with us from Act for America doing his segment with us tonight. And just a real quick recap here of what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing so far. Vermont seems to be a tie, a standoff between Kasich and Trump. Looks like Minnesota and Virginia right now may be going into the Rubio camp. They've declared Georgia to Trump. Sanders won Vermont. Hillary Clinton has taken Georgia and Virginia. And Cruz is leading down in Oklahoma and Texas. So it doesn't look like anybody's going to really, at this point, walk away with a whole bunch of stuff. But, you know, the night is young, so we'll see how it plays out here. So anyway, coming back to what we were talking about here, in terms of how do you see this playing out in your mind, Don, between tonight and March 15th? I'm sure by March 15th, we're going to know who the winner is and who the losers are. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Did you hear my question?
I did hear your question. I actually had my phone on mute just so I didn't bleed over. My hope and prayer is that Ben Carson and John Kasich tomorrow say, you know, we're gonna bow out of we're gonna end our campaigns. Mm-hmm. I think that's important. I hope Bernie continues to burn on because really, you know, he has nothing to lose, really. He's a one-man money-raising machine. There's so many people that are so fanatic about him that regardless of what happens, I think he can continue to soldier on raising money because he ingeniously uses his, victory speeches as money-raising. He did that, you know, in... I forget which state it was, but in one of I think it was in New Hampshire, he used his victory, his speech as a money raising thing. So I hope he continues to soldier on into the middle of the month. I really hope that we begin to sort of rip apart the veneer of who Donald Trump is, because there's one thing that came out in that debate. We were talking about what concerns us. One thing that came out of the debate, of course, national security always gets my attention because that's the first and foremost role of our federal government. Donald Trump said, I can broker a deal between Palestine and Israel. I'm neutral on both those countries. Well, first of all, how can you be neutral in a country that as part of their charter and essentially their constitution calls for the annihilation of Israel? There's no way to be neutral on Palestine. The naivety that he showed in saying that he thought he could broker a deal between Israel and Palestine, I thought was telling. That scares me because what these people have been dealing with over there goes back thousands of years. He doesn't And that was the thing that, quite honestly, when Bush went into Iraq, I was like, we're going to put a democracy. We're going to go in and take Iraq and put a democracy in. These people have not been living with democracy for their tribal feuding goes back thousands of years. At least 1400 to the establishment of Islam. So that gave me a lot of insight into Donald Trump's naivety about one of the most important things about the role of a president, and that's national security. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's gonna help us. So would a Rubio Cruz alliance be, in the very least, a coordination be a good thing? Yes, I think so. I think we're seeing, those of us that are paying a lot of attention to this. Yes, I want an insurgent in Washington, D.C. Is Trump that guy? No more than Hillary is. Both of those people scare the heck out of me, and how we as a country have ended up with these two front runners out of the 300 million people. You mean we couldn't find better leaders to lift up as president of the United States? It's very scary.
Yeah, I agree. My assessment of this thing kind of runs like this. On the Democrat side, everything hinges on whether Hillary is indicted, or at least something comes out to such a degree that the establishment of the DNC, obviously the electorate doesn't care, but if the establishment side of the DNC decides that she's too much of a liability, then something will come down the pipe there, whether it be a brokered convention or they throw Uncle Joe or Mike Bloomberg comes out of the woodwork or whatever, and they try to go about it that way. To me, it all hinges on whether or not this FBI investigation gets to the place where even if Loretta Lynch, for political purposes, convenes a grand jury with the intent of doing nothing, something like that puts it into the court of public opinion, the DNC establishment is going to respond to that. So that's kind of where I see that side of it. On the Republican side, I think it's a little bit more complicated. If Trump walks away between now and March 15th with more than half of the delegates that he needs to get the nomination, and I'm sure it would be pretty close to that if the trend continues the way that it is, then I think, as you said, I believe and I hope that Kasich and Carson will drop out after tomorrow, although I think Kasich is still running for vice president. I think that's why he's sticking around. But should that not happen, I think that Rubio and Cruz have got to make some kind of alliance. And I don't know if it's going to be you make me your VP, Rubio, you make Cruz your VP, or you promise Cruz the Supreme Court appointment if you win or whatever. And I think that's the deal that Trump cut with Christie, is that if I win, I'll put you on the Supreme Court, that kind of thing. So I think there's got to be some kind of alliance to try to bring all this about, to put it into. It's either going to be Rubio. This is my prediction. It's going to be Rubio, either through deal making or through a brokered convention, because I just don't see the Republican establishment going along with Trump as a nominee. They're too self-absorbed with their own self-preservation right now to even entertain the idea of having to deal with somebody who has the ability to bully them every much as Barack Obama did. So I'm kind of out there on the fringe, but that's how I see it shaping up. So having said that, Don, I want to give you a moment here to plug your website and your organization and your show, everything else that you're doing.
Well, bless you, and thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to visit with you on this. It is a fascinating time to be up close and personal in this most important time. I would be remiss, John, if I didn't mention, for those of your listeners that are in Southern California, need to put March the 19th on their calendar, because that is the largest gathering of conservatives in Southern California, probably California. March the 19th is the Unite Inland Empire Conservative Conference. We have in downtown Riverside at the Fox Theater. You can go to uniteie.com, get more information, click on the banner at the top, get tickets if you're in the area. If you know people in Southern California, do whatever you can to get them to come to this. This is just us reaching out to the folks in Southern California saying, let's get off the couch, let's get involved. This country literally is on so many areas hanging in the balance, and we've got to get more people of good conscience involved in the fight We have a great speaker lineup. Just announced today, in fact, Congressman Louis Gohmert is our keynote speaker for the afternoon. We've got pundit Bill Whittle, radio talk show legend Larry Elder, a panel of California political reporters to talk about what is ailing California, but most importantly, a lot of solutions. So come be a part of that and get more information at uniteye.com.
All right, I appreciate it, Don, so much, and we'll. You want to go out and you can find all the information you want to know about Don on our website. You go to our website and hit the About tab. It'll take you to the bios, and it'll take you linked right to everything that he does. Thanks so much again, Don. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Let's hope and pray. I'm hoping Joe will be back tomorrow with us. He sounded very good the other day, so we'll see how that works out. God bless you all. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. God bless you all. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.